So let me go ahead and get going here. I was just saying that we can leave comments in the comment section, and you can also send me messages via Facebook if you want. You can also go to, if you're a member of the Meetup group, you can contact me through Meetup. You just click on my picture and it'll set, you can send me a message. You can also send me a message via my websites. One of them is kmarshak.com. The other one is asd-ntrelationships.com. Those are two of my major websites. You can leave me messages because I'm happy to do, try to answer the questions that you have from this event, even if you can't do it today. And Michelle is already asking a question. Yes, any advice for empaths who are in pain from lack of emotional support from the spouse? This is what we're going to talk about today. Not only why are autistics and empaths drawn together, but what to do about that. So one of the things is that we tend to be, we get angry, we get hurt. Well, I want to talk about some ways to reduce your anger, maybe even rise above it. We're going to talk about this is about this month too. These are the events that are coming up this month that sort of fit in this category of the empath and the autistic together, talking with each other is not always easy, but there's a reason that you found each other. And I think that's important. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, and if you have to leave, and Michelle said something else too, and I think Jean's in here, there's a couple of other people. If you have to leave, don't worry, the live is being recorded, so you can go back and listen again, and you can leave comments, even on the recording. And I'll get them. I get notified of any comments that people make, so I'll come back in and answer questions. So in these events this month, we're also going to be talking about why people on the spectrum don't get small talk or chit chat. It's why it feels empty when we're trying to connect like that, when we're using small talk and they don't get it. And I also want to talk about love languages. People talk about, well, this is my love language, or this is his love language, this is our love language. Those love languages are not very helpful for neurodivergent couples. All those books that you've read on trying to, make a connection work with your partner, they don't work because people on the spectrum and people that are neurotypical have different operating systems. We come from a very, very different way of processing information and then talking about what we're processing. So it's kind of what we're going to talk about today. One of the things that my major message about why empaths and people on the spectrum are drawn to each other is that we're actually pretty well suited to help each other out. The empath, it makes perfectly good sense because you are so dang sensitive as an empathic person, since you pick up all kinds of subtleties. Your autistic loved one really needs that support because they're not very good at communicating what's going on with them. They actually need somebody who's pretty sweet and kind and supportive and accommodating their odd style. On the other hand, empaths are so unique in many ways that it feels good to have this solid sort of Aspergery neurodiverse way of being in the world, that they're almost sort of immovable. That transactional style is kind of this right and wrong, black and white way of looking at things, seems comforting at first. It's not after a while, but at first it feels comforting. So, whoops, I want to make sure I'm still here. Can you still see me and hear me? I clicked on a button. Well, I guess I am. Okay. Now I want to go into the events. Well, I'll come back and talk some more about this subject. Feel free to put comments or questions for me, but I wanted to let you know what the events are that are going to be happening this month. And these events are primarily hosted on Meetup and the advanced community and forum. And there's also a course event and some free things. So I want to let you know about all this stuff. There are either video conferences or teleconferences are the primary events that you're going to go to or be able to go to. The video conferences are small groups. So, and I record them, but I only record the audio, and the recordings are only available to members of the groups. So you need to register either for Meetup or the Advanced Community Forum. If you want to listen to all the recordings from the past, you need to be part of the Advanced Community Forum. It's just the way it's organized. So the first video conference is on February 7th, and it's Why Do I Get So Angry with my Aspie or my neurodiverse loved one? Why do I get so angry? And of course, that's why I said, if you've got a very different operating system, the reason you get angry or hurt or frustrated is because if you're neurodiverse, you're using a more transactional communication system, and you just want to know what the bottom line is. If you're an empathic neurotypical, you're using an operating system that is interactive. You're listening for nonverbal cues and you're pulling all that information in order to actually communicate with the person you're with. And the reason we get angry is us neurotypicals get angry. I'll clarify that. We get angry because we don't feel that we're being heard, and the neurodiverse person gets angry for roughly the same reason. It's that they feel like the neurotypical empathic person is bringing in way too many chunks of information that aren't relevant to what they believe is the conversation. I'll get to that in a minute, Nancy. Thank you for that message. Okay, the second conference is why do Aspies or neurodiverse people don't get chit-chat? By the way, I still use some of these old-fashioned archaic terms like Asperger's syndrome and Aspies because it's the kind of stuff that's been out there for many, many years, and people know it. They know that language, and they find our group because they know that language. But sometimes I'm criticized for using old terms, and I'm trying to convert those terms to NeuroDiverse, NeuroDivergent. But I don't want to lose people who only know it according to that level. So why don't people on the spectrum get chit-chat? Because they're not neurotypical. They're not empathic. They don't read between the lines. They don't look for what is a subtle meaning. They don't pick up on an energy right away and realize that energy is saying something to them from the other person. Now, they may pick up the energy and just push it aside, or it may be so upsetting to them they can't respond to it. But the point is that if you are empathic, if you're using an interactive empathic system, you don't push those cues away. You know which cues are important, you're context sensitive, and you know that this is one you're going to listen to. You're going to pay attention to that. So they don't get it, and many of them will say, I'm no good at small talk. I'm no good at chit chat. Many of them say that. Or sometimes they say, oh, I'm great at it, but their partner knows they're not. They're only good at some of those sort of classic things that they might have managed to memorize that work pretty well. So they'll tell the same joke over and over again because it seems to work. Okay, then the next conference is Affection, Asperger's, and Sex. It's another video conference. Affection, Asperger's, and Sex. And again, if you think about it, if your empathic style is to connect with the person and talk about a subject later, then you crave connecting person to person. Us neurotypicals really crave that. Neurodiverse people want to connect too, but they don't use connecting language. So that also affects the bedroom. That affects love. That affects intimacy and loving. It's not a task. It's a way to connect with your sweetheart. So this will probably be a pretty lively discussion. And again, these are small group video conferences, these first three. Why do I get so angry? Why don't Aspies get chit-chat? And affection, Asperger's, and sex are small group recorded conferences. And you do have to register for those either on the Advanced Community Forum if you're a member of that, or Meetup if you're only a member of Meetup. And then the next event is the teleconference, What's Your Love Language? I'm not really going to talk about your love language. I'm going to dispel the myth of love languages, because in our relationships and these neurodivergent relationships, and by neurodivergent, I mean neurodiverse, neurotypical, they're such different operating system that they collide or diverge, neurodiverge. The reason that the love languages just don't make any sense is that if you say, well, gosh, my love language is acts of service, or my love language is words of affirmation, it's like, maybe. For most of you on this call that are empathic neurotypicals, your love language is words. It's absolutely words of affirmation. You need to be acknowledged first, and then we can talk about something else. You can certainly appreciate that your neurodiverse loved one built a fountain in the backyard that you've been wanting. You may love that he or she did that for you, or you may appreciate that they invited you to go do something that you've always wanted to do, and you're surprised that they would take you to this art event when that's not something they really care that much about. So that tells you that they love you, but it's not the same as being loving in the moment, which is an empathic trait. The empath is aware of making that feeling grow between you right now. So I'll be talking more about what that love language really is and how to bridge the gap, the chasm between neurodiverse, who tend to focus on an end result, and neurotypical, who focus on the joy of getting to the result. Another event that I think is really important is where you meet with our ambassador, Julie. Julie's the ambassador for our meetup group, and she also knows a lot about the course, the online course that I offer on Asperger syndrome and relationships, and the Advanced Community Forum. So she offers that. It's a free video for our members on Thursday, February 15th at 3. All these times are Pacific time, so you'll just have to use your computer to convert to when they are. What Julie does is really pretty exciting. She's been with the group for so long. She's been a member forever. Well, not forever, but for a long time. And she knows she can help new members and even people who've been around for a while know maybe which courses to sign up for, which events would be best for them or their partner. And she also just talks about her life, what it's like to live with um, a partner. She's neurotypical, so what it's like to live with a partner on the spectrum, raise a child on the spectrum. And also, she knows dealing with women on the spectrum. A lot of times people think we're only talking about male partners. It's just not really true. We're talking about women and girls on the spectrum, men on the spectrum, and so forth. Okay, and then there is an event where both neurotypical and neurodiverse can meet together, and that's my course, my online course. I've got some other courses up there as well, but this is the big one, and it's for both a couple, or at least if you want to meet, if you're neurodiverse and would like to meet other people that are neurotypical to kind of understand what it's like for them, or if you're trying to understand better what's going on with your neurodiverse loved one, you can take the online course. And part of the course is a forum where we meet monthly for a webinar and talk about subjects similar to this. The course webinar, again, is about this topic. Why are autistics and empaths drawn to each other? Because at the webinar, we're going to have both neurodiverse and neurotypical. On this Facebook, it's open to the public. So we have neurotypicals and neurodiverse folks join the Facebook Live. Um, but we can't interact very much except I keep looking over at the comment section to see if there's anything here I need to answer. So, um, but if you sign up for the course, you're entitled to go into the forum where you can have chats. You can also look at the old recordings of the past webinars. You can talk about each video that I've posted regarding the course. And people, start dialoguing and can learn a lot from each other. So I think it's really valuable. So the course webinar is Why Are Autistics and Empaths Drawn to Each Other also. And you do have to be a course member. So it's important that you sign up for that. Okay, let me move on to some of your questions. And I'm just going to make sure I got everything here. I think I did. I didn't look ahead of schedule. I'm sorry, just to make sure I have other people's questions that sent them in ahead of time, but I want to make sure I do that. So let's see here. Oh, back to Michelle. She says, any advice for empaths who are in pain from lack of emotional support from the spouse? This is an absolutely huge question. It's huge. Um, because there's on multiple levels. It's all well and good to say, well, just understand that they don't mean to hurt you. But we're wired for connections. Us human beings, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, we actually are wired to belong, to be with each other. We're very social, but we're more than social. Desmond Tutu said, God created us for each other. And he said, if we don't remember that, we're going to have a problem. I'm not quoting him quite right, but basically we need each other. The problem is that because people on the spectrum fail to read the nonverbal cues, they're not necessarily engaging in affirmation first. What happens is that us neurotypicals keep getting triggered with the disconnect feeling. We keep feeling that disconnect. Okay, every time there's a disconnect, our alarm bells go off, and we look in, we try to figure out, well, what can I do to bring this person back? How do I reconnect with someone who just cut me off, who got up and walked out of the room, or said something like, I don't know why you're talking about that, we talked about it yesterday. These are messages that are so alarming that what happens is our bodies can get sick. And I think this is what Michelle is referring to. We're in pain because we keep wanting emotional connection, and the other person thinks they're providing it, but they really aren't providing it. They keep disconnecting. So she says, how do we deal with that? Well, first of all, I want you to understand that what you're feeling is perfectly reasonable. It's not abnormal to feel pain, the pain of disconnection with this person that you care about. It's a total stranger. It's a little bit easier to say, got up and walked out of the room. It's like, well, I don't know this person anyway, so it doesn't matter. But when it's your sweetheart, it matters, right? Clearly matters. We care a lot about what our sweethearts, our loved ones feel about us, think about us, and we're trying to convey that we care to them too. So what I know is that neurodiverse or neurotypical, we all want to be cared for. We will all want to be affirmed. It's just that empaths, frankly, are much better at affirming the other person. People on the spectrum are not very good at that. They miss the nonverbal cues. They're abrupt. They keep trying to track the words as opposed to the person. As a matter of fact, that's why the name of my last book is the one that came out last year is Empathy is More Than Words. Empathy is more than words. It's really important. And then let's see here. Nancy says, I found the concept of expressing love through deeds and not words helpful, as my partner does so much for me, even if it's not the sort of love I long for. It is important for me to recognize this as a way of being loving. Yes. See, that's a conscious thing, Nancy. She's saying she's trying to remind herself that her neurodiverse partner loves her because he does a lot of good things for her, helps out, whatever it is. Um, so that those actions are coming from somebody who probably loves her, But see, that's a cognitive thing. It's a cognitive conscious thing, which is fine. Sometimes what we got to work with. But what Michelle was talking about is that the pain of those those disconnects, those little abrupt not being there just for me, just affirming me, right? So, but it's sometimes the best you can do. And then if those who are neurodiverse are listening, one of the things you can do is give a workaround. You know, you can do all those things that would make your partner feel good. And then you can say, you know me, I wish I was more tuned in to where you're really coming from. I hope you know I care. You can send emails, you can bring cards, you can do things that affirm your loved one, even if in the moment you don't get them. You don't get what's going on when you don't acknowledge the emotional impact. Hope that helps. And then Louise says, yeah, my neurodiverse partner is not aware of others' emotional needs and so can't meet mine. I was told by my therapist when he was diagnosed, he does love as best he can, but can't meet my emotional needs. It is sad. Well, this is the reason it's called a spectrum, by the way. Louise is bringing up a very, very good point. Um, when I work with neurodiverse folks, I have some that get what I'm talking about, even if they can't do it. They accept it. They know that there's more going on, and they feel bad, even that they aren't meeting your emotional needs because they have alexithymia. They're behind on picking up messages. So what I do with those people that are more aware of that is I say, write things down. You can go back later when you do figure out what's going on with your loved one. You can go back later and say, you know, when we were talking this morning, I realized what you were trying to share with me was something about your grandmother, and I'm sorry I missed it. So sometimes people on the spectrum can process in writing or away from the emotional situation so that they're, you know, not overwhelmed by all those feelings, and they can get what's going on. And I think neurotypicals are perfectly willing to accept them coming back later and talking about it. On the other hand, because it is a spectrum of dysfunction, because it is a disorder, okay, autism spectrum disorder is not just a different way of being a person, although that's true as well. But some people really do not recognize any emotional impact. They're so unaware of the nonverbal emotional messages that are being sent that they don't mean to be rude or abrupt, but they will keep doing it. So another option though is to get some coaching. I really recommend that. Uh, Even if the person is unaware, so some of the things I will say is, I know you're not noticing this. Do you believe me that it's still going on? Because I'm telling you it's going on. Your spouse is telling you that there's nonverbals flying around the room. So if you can accept that it does exist in the universe, but that you're going to miss it, could you have 4 or 5 tools that you use that are kindnesses? Something that you can say that's kind and uh, sweet to the other person. You know, like, may I get you a cup of tea? And that might be the clue. You can even say, I don't know if that's appropriate right now, but I want to do something. I want to do something for you. So this is about learning to cross over this divide between neurotypical and neurodiverse. And in my course and in my book, my last book, I talk about developing the 7-step interface protocol. The 7-step interface protocol is really to walk you through this really different way of communicating so that you're not hurting each other, losing each other, going out of your mind in the relationship. So Julie, what's Julie? Whoops. Let's see here. I slipped through this too fast. Julie, I understand empaths are relational, interactive, and neurodiverse are, whoops, Facebook keeps bouncing me around. And neurodiverse are transactional, but why can't they learn or ever grow in understanding? My spouse says he believes what I'm telling him, but it makes no sense to him. Oh gosh, Julie, I wish there was an answer to that one. We're doing some, we're doing research. Psychologists and neuroscientists are looking at brains and trying to figure this out. Um, for example, memory is they've been studying memory, and empaths store our memories in what's called episodic memory. We remember an episode, and it includes how we feel, what we heard, who was there, what time of year it was, um, how the memory uh, lands with us. And as a result of episodic memories, we don't need to know all the details because we've got it as a whole. It's stored as a whole. And then we can pull this whole out and relate to this whole over here and have these patterns. Whereas people on the spectrum tend to have what's called semantic memory. They don't reach the episodic memory level. They have semantic memory. So what that means is that they're better at facts and figures and lists and cognitive analysis, and they're not storing the memory according to the people they shared the time with. It's really helpful to have episodic memory because we don't have to worry about all those details. We just pull together the people that are important to us. So what Julie is saying, why can't they learn or ever grow in understanding? That would mean that you, Julie, would have to be in every category that he has in his mind, which is a technique that I will use actually with my neurodiverse clients. I'll say, look, if you want your partner to feel loved, I want you to assume that he or she is in every cognitive category you've got. So if you've got your car repairing category, I want you to imagine that she's there too. Or if you've got your grocery shopping category, I want you to imagine that your neurotypical is in that category too. It's hard for them to do because they don't store it according to the episode with the person. At any rate, there's science behind why these brains function differently. And when we say, why can't they ever learn? The problem is both sides can say that. Neurodiverse folks can say, why don't neurotypicals ever learn that I do it this way? It works both ways. It's just that what we tend to do is make emotional meaning of this lack of connection when nobody's trying to be difficult, right? We're just doing it our own way. So Linda, she says, I try hard to connect with my Aspie husband. He seems to get so angry and I get knocked off center because what I said should not cause anger. I ask him why he's angry and he frequently says that I'm telling him he is broken. I never said anything like that, but he keeps saying this. What can I do? What can I do or say to his comeback other than that was not what I said? Well, yeah, you go into circles, don't you, when you say I didn't say that. That's not what I said. Um, so I'm going to assume that Linda's making a typical neurotypical mistake. So neurotypicals try to talk about things by inviting the other person into the conversation first. I'd like to talk to you about something. Well, there's been something on my mind that's kind of bothers me. That's our way of inviting them in to work with me on a solution. But to the neurodiverse person, that approach sounds like you're complaining about me. So you want to talk about something that I did wrong, is where they take that. So that neurotypical approach is we're always assuming that the other person wants to know about where we're coming from, and we want to know where they're coming from. So when we say, I'd like to talk to you about something that's been kind of bothering me, we're waiting for our partner to go, oh, Sure, I hope I didn't step on your toes. What is it what's on your mind? And then we can say, oh, no, no, you didn't step on my toes. But, we've just been taking a long time to figure out, which school to send our daughter to for high school. And I don't want to wait much longer. I want to get this done. Whatever. It doesn't really matter what the topic is. But we're okay. I hope this is making sense. Um, when he thinks you're accusing him or criticizing him, I would say instead of, nope, that's not what I said, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to imply that. It's okay to say that. I am so sorry. Um, are you, and then, then maybe you can go at the neurodiverse person's speed. They need facts and figures and a list. So instead of starting a conversation from scratch, which will throw them off guard, I would send them a message first, an email or a text, and say, I'd like to talk about, give them the punchline. I'd like to talk about where we're going to send our daughter to high school. We haven't decided yet, and we really need to get that done by the end of the month. Can we talk about that this afternoon? Or can we make a decision about it this afternoon would be even better. Then at least they know what you're going to talk about, and then they can say, oh, it's not about me. He still might say, oh, so you think I'm the one that's taking so long to get this done? You can still go there. Hopefully not. So, Catherine, let's see here. How do I handle a partner who refuses categorically to acknowledge the impact of what he does or what he says to me or anyone because he says that the impact is my issue or problem, not his? This is incredibly frustrating for me. We've been together for 42 years, by the way. Taking responsibility, this is a good question, Catherine. Taking responsibility for how you affect the other person is what neurotypicals do. We're looking to affirm the other person first. You don't have to agree. We're just going to affirm that the other person has value. And we want them to affirm that I have value, that we have value too. If we're both on the same page that the other person is of value, then we feel like we can move ahead with whatever we're going to talk about. The problem for neurodiverse folks is they're not asking themselves, how does their behavior affect other people? They assume that if my intentions are good, you shouldn't be upset with me. Or if my intentions are, I didn't realize what I was doing, then it's still not my fault because I didn't know I was doing something that was going to be upsetting. And for neurotypicals, that feels narcissistic. Hate to tell you neurodiverse people, but when you take that approach that my behavior, you're upset because of who you are and because I didn't intend to upset you, that's your problem, that really feels like we're dealing with a narcissist. So if you don't want to sound narcissistic, it's really important to say to your neurotypical, you know me, I don't often realize that I'm stepping on your toes, but I'm okay if we walk through this together. Somehow you're just going to have to make an effort. But if I were up against a neurodiverse person who is actively refusing to accept responsibility, you know, I I'm not sure I would continue the conversation. Sometimes you can say, well, this doesn't work for me. When you're ready to talk with me, come and get me. We'll talk. But you could also try saying things like, of course, you didn't intend to cause a problem. Your heart's in the right place. I get that. It's just hard for our 15-year-old to realize your heart's in the right place when you did X, Y, and Z. And do this outside of the earshot of your 15-year-old because you don't want to throw your 15-year-old under the bus. But you can take the neurodiverse person aside and say, kind of give them an out. You know, your 15-year-old daughter is she's kind of sensitive the way you say things. And I know you hate it when I bring that up because you think you're a good parent because you love your daughter, and I know you love her. Um, Parenting is more complicated than just loving your child, though, isn't it? That would be a whole nother subject we could talk about. How many of you have neurodiverse partners who say, I'm a perfectly good parent, stop telling me what to do? And you're noticing that there's these things that they're saying and doing that leave the child feeling like just as misunderstood as sometimes you feel. So did I miss anybody? I'm gonna scroll back through this and make sure I didn't miss somebody that left something. Um, so the bottom line is to be okay with you, to know that you are a good person, that you mean well, that you're not perfect, that you're not the best communicator. In fact, you might even say things like, "Oh, I tried that thing that Dr. Marshak said, and it doesn't work for me." Well, what does she know? That's okay, because if you're enough, just as you are, then you have no reason to, uh, you know, uh, defend yourself or rise to the occasion with the other person. You just don't have to complain or explain. I can't believe not everybody has seen the Barbie movie, and I'm not doing an ad for the Barbie movie, but I love the Barbie movie. I just love it. I've watched it I don't know how many times, and I bought a copy. I have my own Blu-ray because I love it so much. But I'm not giving anything away. If you haven't seen it, you'll still enjoy it. There's a part of the movie where uh, Ken starts to realize that he's enough, that he isn't just a Barbie doll accoutrement or just some two-dimensional person. And he has a t-shirt that says Ken Nuff. I like his t-shirt, Ken Nuff. He's realizing that regardless of his strengths or weaknesses, he's okay. He's enough. If you come from that place that you're enough, then you can handle almost anything that gets dished out. Oh, hi, Heather. This is great. Is there a good way to get out of a conversation with an Aspie without offending, upsetting them, especially when they are going on and on about something upsetting like politics? I try to disengage, but he gets so mad if I don't sit and listen to his rants. Remember, people on the spectrum think a conversation is transactional. They think you're supposed to listen to me, and then when I'm done, you can talk. And many times they will say things like that. I'm not done. You just interrupted me. I'm not finished. For neurotypicals, a conversation is a back and forth, and we interrupt each other. We just go, oh, yeah, I remember. Oh, I remember when that happened. That was so much fun. Thank you for sharing that with me. So for us neurotypicals, a conversation is more about connecting than it is about what we're talking about. Although we like to talk about stuff too. We can be transactional and get things done. You can handle a business meeting or have an agenda that you need to get through. But what's always more important for neurotypicals is connecting first, affirming the other person, having them affirm you, making sure that we're feeling good about each other, and then we can talk. If somebody wanders off and is talking about something else or isn't or they look like they're bored or not paying attention, we stop and we try to reconnect. People on the spectrum don't do that. So, and if they go on and on and on, a lot of times it depends on how much leverage you have, Heather. It depends on whether he's going to listen to you or not. But you could just say, wow, you feel strongly about this. I am happy to sit here and listen, but I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes. So you don't have to say why, but hopefully this is a subject also for their therapist or their coach. I think people on the spectrum really need a good coach to help them understand that a conversation is not ranting at the other person, and that the other person doesn't have to listen to you if it makes them feel uncomfortable. I think they need coaching. And even if they get mad at you, she says that I try to disengage, but he gets so mad that if I don't sit and listen to his rants, it's like uh, that's an anger management problem, and I just think it's his problem. I wish I could give you an easier answer, but you can just say, look, this doesn't work for me. I understand you've got something really important, And I understand that you and I don't think the same politically, but lots of people think like I do and they like my opinions, and I'm going to stick with it. Again, if you're feeling okay with yourself, you don't have to be pushed around. So Silvana, oh, you're welcome, Heather, says, Silvana says, it is so hard when there are children because I want to protect them and I feel terrible when my husband does not understand how his behavior words can affect them. Oh boy, yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? I'm sure lots of people on this call today are parents and kind of know what that is, and you tend to get rush in and try to protect the children, and then you don't want to say something about the other parent that would be disparaging. On the other hand, your child just feels filleted by something, so it isn't helpful. That's why I think there needs to be professional guidance. You can't be a transactional parent only. Certainly, as parents, we're transactional. We say, get your coat, finish your homework. No, you can't have dessert yet. I mean, we've got lots of transactions that we do with our kids as we're raising them, but we're also taking a moment and enjoying their story or going for a walk and letting them entertain us as they notice things, or whatever. Parenting is getting to know that child as an individual. It's not about raising a little lump of clay into a person. So the hard part is that if your partner isn't willing to work with you on parenting techniques, that's going to be tough. I would demand it. I would say this is not acceptable to make the children feel bad about themselves because they disappointed you. I don't know how many people in the room grew up with an autistic parent, but I did. My mother was on the spectrum, and boy, did she confuse me for the longest time. And in fact, decades of my life went by without understanding that I that I was okay, that I knew what I was talking about. So it's important to protect children and yet protect them in such a way that they don't feel like their neurotypical partner is bad or wrong, but we have to work with the communication problems. Anyway, Silvana, I wrote an entire book on this. It's called Parenting with a Partner with Asperger's Syndrome. So you can find that at my website or on Amazon. Because I do think it's really a big issue. By the way, neurodiverse folks want to feel like great parents too. They want to enjoy their children. They want to watch them grow into great adults. It's just harder to parent when you're not good at recognizing where that other human being is coming from. And I'm not sure what you mean, Nancy, but maybe you could give me a more specific example. Okay, we're going to run out of time here, but is there anything else that anybody wants to ask before we do? Just go ahead and put it in the comment section. And if you want to leave a message later, it's perfectly fine. I will go, like I said, I go back and I usually try to answer those things that I either missed or people left after I closed down the live. Remember, this is Dr. Kathy's Office Hours on my YouTube, Kathy Marshak, Ph.D. You can find me. There's years and years of past recordings there that were all on Facebook. You don't have to be a member of the group to listen to the Facebook rebroadcasts. But I hope I see you at one of our events. I hope you sign up for the group, either the meetup group or the advanced community forum. And I'll go ahead and put those links in after I log off. I'll try to enter the links so that you can find our groups online and you don't have to wander around Googling to try to find me. Oh, and I guess I need to announce what the next live is about. Where did it go? I know it's here somewhere. Oh, right. So next month, the theme is on focuses on why does my relationship feel so hard? Why does my relationship feel so hard? And that will be on February 27th at 1 o'clock. That's a Tuesday. Why does my relationship feel so hard? So that's what we'll be talking about next month, and you'll see events that are related to that as well. Okay, take care, everybody. Oh, well, this is a good question. Maybe I can take one more second. Michelle says, what are some ways for the Aspie spouse to comfort an empath? First of all, I want to remind you, empaths, that you are remarkable. This is a very, very incredible skill. Empaths have to be strong and brave because you know things and you feel things that other people don't feel, and you're right. You're just right. So it takes a lot of courage to step up and know you're right and know what you're talking about. Uh, so one way that neurodiverse folks can comfort the neurotypical is to acknowledge that, is to say, you're amazing. I don't always understand what it is you know, but you are amazing. And I'm sorry, I'm not here for you enough. So I think that's, most neurotypicals, most neurodiverse people, by the way, when I tell them that they're neurotypical is an empath, they go, I know, he or she is stunning. I don't really get it. So they know. And then I say, okay, then what's important is to realize how much work it takes for an empath to navigate the social world, because we see a lot of things that other people don't see and don't do anything about. And empaths we're compelled to do something about it. We want to make a difference in the world through what it is we see. Okay, so I'm hoping to see you at one of our events, and like I said, feel free to leave me messages, and hopefully I'll see you back here at our next Facebook Live in February. Take care, everybody.